Welcome, everybody, to the Smart Connector podcast. My name's Jane Baylor, and I really do have such an exciting guest for you today. His name's Ryan Blair. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Jane. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So, Ryan is a #1 New York Times bestselling author and serial entrepreneur who went from being a gang member to a businessman with over $2 billion worth in company sales. And he's the former CEO of ViSalus, known for the Body by V 90-day challenge. And in 2012, he sold that business for $792 million. That is just amazing, isn't it? So his book, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, has inspired millions worldwide to ditch their disempowered story and invest in themselves. And after decades of building successful companies, Blair began his latest company, AlterCall, which helps entrepreneurs scale their companies using spiritual modalities. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But anyway, Ryan, yeah, I'm so excited to be able to interview you today, and I just can't wait for our conversation. So, you have the most incredible story, and that story is what I'd like to share with our guests.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, so Ryan, tell us all about it right from the very beginning, just as you did in the book, because your book is phenomenal. So, yeah, want to bring your story to our guests.
Thank you. And Jane, I'll share with you that the the fact that you call it a story, and it really is a story. It's a story that I crafted. One, I was dealt some things in life that were very difficult, as a lot of people are. I just chose to craft a story of resilience over adversity. I chose to craft a story of a deep sense of spirituality as a result of the adversities, and I've been blessed as a result of my walk and my path to have been mentored by some great people. And so as a result, I have a story to tell, and I've told it, and I share that with people just because we all have a story.
Hmm.
I just have chosen to tell it in such a way to where it resonates with people. And I was in a gang. I was early on a victim to abuse, to alcoholism, to a lot of difficult things. And as a result of my family upbringing and the way I was raised, I was put in some very difficult situations as a child. I dropped out of high school my freshman year. I went to a alternative high school that we have here in Los Angeles area for bad kids. I was in and out of juvenile hall. And at about 17 years old, actually 16, I was facing a lengthy jail sentence. I was looking at potentially 4 years in prison. And I was in what's called solitary confinement at the time in a detention center. And in solitary confinement, you're locked into a room by yourself for 23 hours a day, and you have nothing but walls to talk to. And they gave me one book, which is a Bible, and they gave me a pencil and a piece of paper. And I decided that I'd write the judge a letter and beg him for leniency. And I wrote that letter over and over, and I had asked the guards to spell check it for me, and they'd come back, and I'd write it again and again. I still have drafts of that letter, but I presented the letter to the judge, and in that moment, he granted me leniency, and he told me, and I'll never forget these words. He said, "Son, you should be writing in college, not in prison." And in that moment, I made the decision that I'd become a writer. And so now I tell the story of overcoming the obstacles and the adversities. And, I tell them in such a way to inspire others, but there's a lot to the story that I've decided to look past or leave out or edit because, there were some very, very difficult times.
And you don't have to tell everything. You can share what you feel is right for you and what would be useful to others. But at the same time, you decide, don't you, as a storyteller?
Yeah, yeah, you do. And, I want to share that with people because a lot of people will hear about my story and they'll go, "Oh, you just had it so lucky." It's like, well, I've just crafted a narrative that involves a lot of luck in it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because obviously I'm here in the UK, and I think a lot of the time people from other countries, they think that the US is this kind of land of milk and honey where, it's just full of rich, successful people, and it's where entrepreneurs thrive, and it's just the ultimate destination for anybody that has ambition. But in fact, it is a very divided society in some respects, isn't it? And so
Yeah.
I'd love to hear how you made it from that place where actually I can hardly believe that at the age of 16 you were already incarcerated and you are in solitary confinement. I don't even think that would happen here in the UK. But,
Yeah.
they're pretty tough over there, right? So how on earth did you get from that situation to selling a business for $792 million dollars?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
unbelievable.
it is unbelievable. And I have to tell you that the people in our society that are capable of creating big problems, they're equally capable of creating big solutions.
Ah,
If you can create a really big problem, which I was very capable of, and that's why I was incarcerated, you're capable of creating a big solution. And we tend to cast the problem makers out of society. We tend to, incarcerate them or label them with shame and guilt, and and put them in a place where they can't utilize their gifts and their skills. And entrepreneurship is the best place for a person capable of creating a big problem. And the reason why is because entrepreneurship requires a high degree of risk taking. And I had been taking tremendous risks in my life, risks that nobody, would welcome. And so because I was very good at taking risks at a young age, I didn't have an issue with risk as an entrepreneur. And all an entrepreneur is a person who takes, a tremendous amount of risk.
yeah, that's a very, very interesting perspective that you started young, really, on the path of entrepreneurship. It's just, maybe it wasn't recognized as such by society, right?
Oh, I was an illegal entrepreneur. A gang is a entrepreneurial organization, and I can see the roots of my entrepreneurial nature even way before my family situation fell apart. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and it turned out that I just, because I was uneducated, because I had such a adverse upbringing, because I was accustomed to taking life and death risks, entrepreneurship was just the perfect place for me to thrive in. And in America in particular, we not only do we iconicize entrepreneurs, but we also, we don't, we're very forgiving of them when they make mistakes or they fail
Yeah.
or they go bankrupt. And so we don't have a culture that, that limits entrepreneurship. We have a culture that really, that validates the entrepreneur. And when they fail, we forgive them, and we expect them to come back even better the next time.
Yeah, I remember that actually really came home to me. I remember many years ago, I went to a conference with actually an entrepreneur. He's in the online space, and his name is Ted McGrath, and he told his story. And it's like, oh my God, his story was he was talking about his house being in foreclosure and his car being towed away, and he'd been very, very successful before that. And then he attracted investment and he built up this business and became very successful again. And that all happened very, very quickly. And I don't think here in the UK, we really forgive failure in that same way, or we really have the same lens. And I think, yeah, I wonder whether perhaps it just goes back to it's almost like self-selection when you look at the people that actually made America what it is. It is a melting pot, right, isn't it,
Yeah.
of all the most ambitious people in the world who kind of gravitated towards this kind of new land of opportunity. And
Yeah,
so
it's deep in
yeah,
our heritage,
yeah,
the risk taking,
yes,
and it's those people that, my family came from England. We took a risk to come here, and so
yes,
it's deep within our DNA.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Well,
and we,
yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in the UK, and I used to have an office there in London. Um, there's there's a lot of differences. Like I said, the forgiving aspect of it, the fact that we iconicize the entrepreneur. We don't have a royal family. Our royalty is Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs, right? This is our royalty. So the entrepreneur is a very coveted role in our society. And it's one that, that our government system really supports. And I got to tell you that my success can be attributed to the way our tax system works, the way our government system works, the many different and elements of capital investment and things like that in our society. I raised $3 million when I was 21 years old without a college degree and with a juvenile criminal record. Right.
Wow.
So, I was 21 years old and I got people to give me $3 million to start a business. And I've since raised
Wow.
hundreds of millions, but other societies don't have that type of a capital market, or a 21-year-old without a high school diploma could go get $3 million who doesn't have any family connections or any pedigree to their name.
And criminal record.
Yeah. Well, it was a juvenile record, so it wasn't public. But now that I've put all the information in a book, it's public. But yeah, we are much more forgiving, and we love the comeback story. So
Yeah.
we're not as judgmental, but we are very judgmental by all means. But we're not as judgmental.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. That's just a fascinating topic. So, what I'd like to ask you, Ryan. So, ViSalus. So, the Body by V 90-day challenge. So that was an incredibly successful business. So, where did you get the inspiration for that from, and what was that business all about?
Yeah,
So
the
let's start there.
inspiration is actually an interesting story. I have a friend who is a world-renowned basketball coach, and he would always challenge me. He's a bit of an older gentleman, and he would say, "Ryan, I challenge you to the Dale Brown challenge." And at one point in time, I agreed to do this challenge, and it was I had to work out every day for 365 days in a row, and I had to run 1 mile a day every day for 365 days, which very difficult challenge with my travel schedule. I was a new father and a variety of other things. And I saw how viral it went within my own social network. My friends were doing it. People were asking me about it. People were checking in on it. And I thought to myself, a challenge would be a great way to market products. And this was at the time when social media was just emerging, but there wasn't really yet a commercial use for it. So we were early innovators in utilizing social media to create a challenge and to
Oh,
spread a challenge. And that was our big success. We ended up signing up over 3 million people into it and did
wow.
billions in sales as a result of it.
Wow, that's just incredible. So you virtually invented the challenge then, didn't you?
No, I didn't invent the challenge because there was some other companies, but we were the very first company to make that our entire business model.
Yeah.
Other companies would have them, as maybe something that was at the back of the store as you checked out. Maybe you heard about a challenge that they were running, but this was our entire business model. And then also, we were very much the first people to do it on social media and to teach people how to engage others in joining them on a challenge. We were the first people to really do that.
Did you have any idea when you did it at the time how big it would get and how many people would join and how many sales you'd make, or was it just an experiment for you?
It was an experiment, but I'll tell you that seeing all the challenges now in social media, I realized that I had a much bigger opportunity on my hands than I even realized at the time. Yes, we made a couple $1 billion from it, but when I see the ice bucket challenge and this challenge and that challenge all over social media, I realized that there was even more to this idea of challenge marketing than I had clearly understood. And today, many people thrive utilizing the exact concepts that we originated.
Definitely, absolutely. The challenge is very mainstream as a marketing model now, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Every time I see someone, so we used to own challenge.com, and we created the category of what I called at the time challenge marketing. And
Uh-huh.
this was my category that I owned. And a lot of people tried to compete in my category, but we owned it. And in retrospect, I should have kept that going. Had I not sold the company, I could have continued to invest in this concept called challenge marketing. And I would be the owner of this category today had I stayed with it.
So what actually made you want to sell the business? I mean, apart from obviously somebody coming along and saying, "Do you know what? I'm gonna throw, hundreds of millions of dollars at you," which is
Yeah.
always obviously quite tempting. But was there anything else that kind of lay beneath that? Did you want to move on to fresh pastures at that particular time? Or where were you, psychologically, spiritually, whatever, when that happened?
I've thought about this a lot because we sold for 8 times our profit. We were making roughly 100 million a year in profit. And at that time, 8 years was a long time. Now I'm 46 years old, and 8 years is, just down the road, right? So as you get older, you have a different time horizon. But at a young 30 something, maybe 32 or 3, when we initiated the transaction, and by the time the earnout was up, maybe I was 35. Um, I just realized that, I wanted to have the pedigree. I wanted the press releases. I wanted the money in the bank. I wanted the fame and notoriety and the validation that would come with that.
Yeah,
Um, I wanted all of those things. And because now if I'd have kept the company doing $100 million a year for the rest of my life, that'd be far more valuable than, 8 times my profit. But so I truthfully think I made a mistake in selling it. Uh,
really?
yeah, you know, eh, there was some other driving factors to it as well, but and I don't have regret about it. I needed to go through that process to receive the validation, to come to the conclusion that I don't need to sell anything to be successful. But at that time, I felt like I needed to sell it so that way Wall Street would admire me and my peers would admire me, and I could, and I have leveraged that sale to get into many rooms. So, I needed it at the time. I don't need that anymore. So now in retrospect, I don't have big aspirations to sell stuff.
Yeah, but I suppose in a way, life's a journey, isn't it? Sometimes things are put in front of us and we just want to have the experience, right? Maybe that was a part of it as well, do you think?
Yes, the experience of it. And also, my soul knew that I didn't want to run that company forever.
Mhm.
And my soul knew that I was doing it for a season. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes that I made is after I sold it, I stuck around for way past my peak. You want to leave at the very high. Instead, I
Yeah.
sold it. I did an agreement with them where the new owners, I would stick around for X amount of time, and I stayed way past my welcome.
Yeah, so why did you do that and how did that feel?
The ego is a powerful force. The reason why is because I was running a very large company. There's a lot of prestige with that. It was a multinational company. I'm a single guy, so I could travel all around the world on a private jet and have lavish dinners and enjoy, all of this beautiful notoriety and wealth, and have a connection to this company that I had created. And so my ego got the best of me in that decision process. In retrospect now, I should have handed it over to the new owners and I should have, gone and done something different. But I wouldn't be where I'm at today had I done that. It's
Yeah.
just looking back at it and saying, knowing what I know now about myself and my decision process, what was my true intention in these decisions? And then what would I do differently, hindsight being 2020.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because we all, with the benefit of hindsight, we all look back and we say, actually, you know what, I probably would have done that differently compared to how I did do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's life, really, isn't it? I think we all do that.
We need to, because the data at the time, we have to evaluate our decisions and we have to look at the data that we had at the time and then ask ourselves, do I believe I made the right decision based on the data that I had at the time? And in this particular case, the answer is yes. Right? I made the right decision with the data that I had at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the data changes though as you change. So would this Ryan make a different decision if I was in the same position? Yes. But this Ryan didn't exist in 2012.
No, no. That's a great way of looking at it. So, Ryan, what I'd love to do is to, well, I want to talk about your book, but before that, I want to talk about your business, AlterCall. So, it helps entrepreneurs scale their businesses using spiritual modalities. So,
Yeah.
there will be some people out there saying, "What is a spiritual modality?" And
Right.
they'll be listening to this saying, "That guy is amazing. I can't believe what he's achieved." But what is a spiritual modality and how will he help me scale my business using that? So I'd love to talk a little bit more about that if that's okay.
Yeah, I would tell you that traditional entrepreneurship doesn't involve faith, and spiritual entrepreneurship is the same exact thing. It just involves faith.
Mm.
And so I want to work with entrepreneurs that have a calling on their life. They believe they have a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
They treat their time and their relationships and their customers as sacred, and they
Mm.
want their team to treat their company as sacred. And so really spirituality just means the sacred. It's treating life as sacred and your business as sacred, and taking risk as an entrepreneur with faith and applying spiritual principles and practices in your everyday entrepreneurial life. So you're not separate. A lot of entrepreneurs, around 82% of people believe in a higher power across the globe. And in America, it's 94%. So many of us have faith, but we compartmentalize that and we don't bring that into our business endeavors. And as
Mm.
a result, we feel the separation between the two. And often that creates a challenge. It might create challenges in the family. It might create burnout.
Yeah.
It might create a culture in your team that you just don't feel a connection to. And so we
Mm.
teach entrepreneurs to bring their spirituality into their business and to celebrate spirituality, not just tolerate spirituality.
Oh, I love that. That is so amazing, Ryan. That is really very, very meaningful and very interesting. And so tell me, how do you actually deliver those services or that inspiration and knowledge and wisdom? What's your kind of business model there?
There's a number of things, but the best way to describe AlterCall is we're at the cross section of science, spirituality, and success. And on the science side, we're innovating in the AI front. We're doing some very exciting things with the motion recognition and AI and coaching and AI. On the spiritual side of it, we teach our entrepreneurs meditation techniques, prayer techniques. We teach them how to release and let go and forgive of the things that are burdening them or creating heaviness in their cultures. We teach them how to view life as sacred. And then on the success side of it, we have principles and practices that they can implement within their organizations to help them scale and grow.
Wow, that's just so amazing. I really, really love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So what kind of clients do you have, and where do your clients come from typically?
Yeah, we're running ads nonstop, and so every day about 200 people sign up to join us, and that number is starting to scale at a rapid pace here. So our clients are generally people that are asking some pretty complex and complicated questions.
Mm.
They might ask themselves the question like, am I trapped by my wealth and success?
Mhm.
Have I created a culture that that I can live with and work with in their
Mm.
company? Oftentimes, we create cultures by accident, and then
Yeah,
we fall out of love with our very own practice and our very own
yeah.
business. So our entrepreneurs are asking some tough questions. Is wealth and spirituality mutually exclusive, or can I find purpose in my work, and can I find work life harmony? These are some of the questions that our entrepreneurs are asking, and we help them answer those questions in a way where they can fall back in love with the work that they do, and and
Yeah.
have harmony with their personal lives and their professional lives.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important because personally, I've seen many wonderful people who are entrepreneurs. I've seen some really difficult things happen to them. And a lot of the time, it doesn't reflect the people that they are in real life. They could be really good people in real life, but somehow bad things seem to happen to them in business.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why that is. I don't really have the answer, but I have one friend who has had multiple business partners who have all ended up trying to rip him off in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure that that is a spiritual problem.
Yes. See, spiritually, a lesson will repeat itself until you have
Yeah,
extracted the wisdom it is
right.
intended to teach you. So,
Yeah,
same if if you have business partners that constantly steal from you, you have the same problem as if you have romantic partners that constantly cheat on you,
yep.
right? And so anytime we have a pattern like that, it's because we're supposed to learn something, and instead of learning, we just we pick the same partner that we picked last time, and we didn't learn the lesson it was intended to teach us.
Yeah, yeah. I do remember somebody once saying to me that we are, what is it? That we are, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember that.
everything is your teacher,
Yeah.
and entrepreneurship is one of the most greatest games that you can play to learn about your lower self and your higher self.
Mhm.
Because every day as an entrepreneur, you're challenged, and as you grow a company, your challenges grow. So does your ability, your need to emotionally grow. As your company scales, you have to bear a greater burden and greater responsibility. And so entrepreneurship is one of the greatest ways to forge a very strong character and very strong competence. It's one of the greatest learning environments you can be involved in, much, much more of a learning environment than that of, say, a traditional job. So entrepreneurship is very spiritual if you see it as such.
Yeah, it's really all about growth, and I think one of the reasons why I am so attracted to it and why I would never go back to, say, employment is because of that path of growth.
Yeah.
Because I'm very, very growth orientated individual. I want to be able to grow professionally as well as personally. And of course, as you said, it's the perfect environment and opportunity to do that, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and as you on the spiritual side of it, as you really start to pray for your team to grow and you really are seeing them as being spiritually assigned to you to mentor them to help them grow at a maximum rate, then your entrepreneurial vehicle just becomes a growth vehicle for everyone involved, yourself included. And it requires you, when you really look at your entrepreneurial vehicle as a spiritual one, it requires you to continue to upgrade and upgrade your use of time, your communication, upgrade everything that you're doing nonstop, because you're doing it with the highest level of intentionality, not just to make a profit and
Mm.
have this company running that's here to, make, to give you money so you can take vacation or so you can have nice things. It's like, no, this company is running for me to maximize my growth in this life. And
Absolutely.
in order for me to do that, I have to help others maximize their growth too.
Oh, yeah, totally, totally. And, I'm a very purpose-driven person myself. I mean, one of the reasons why my podcast is called The Smart Connector is because I'm very passionate about the power of connection.
Mm.
And I really believe that, communication and connection with others is the foundation of success, and happiness. And I do think that's so important. And so, yeah, I mean, what a fantastic conversation. I am loving this so much, Ryan. And I know that if I'm loving it, our viewers and our listeners will be loving it too. So, what I wanted to ask you now is about your amazing book, which, as soon as I'd spoken to Sonia, that's the lady that put us together, I went out and bought it and I read it, and it was like, oh my God, this book is incredible. So, tell me, when did you actually write your book, and what inspired you to tell your story to the world?
I've written a couple of books now. Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain
Yeah,
became a worldwide success, and it was published in 2011. I wrote it in 2010 during right as we were in a pretty difficult recession,
yeah.
and I wrote it with the intention to act as a catalyst for people to start their own businesses, and for people to realize that they can overcome many of the challenges and adversities that they're facing. And at the time when it was published, America was just coming out of a recession, and it went on to be published in many different countries and many different languages, and it's still selling around the world today, which is just a beautiful thing to be a part of. The inspiration was real simple. Is I knew that I was supposed to. I knew that my artistic practice is to write, and that one of the highest forms of that practice is to publish a book. And so I knew that it was a calling in my heart to write and to publish a book and become an author. Ever since that judge told me I should be writing in college, not in prison.
Yeah, and I also love writing, and I think there is it just has a special magic, doesn't it? But isn't it wonderful to think that that your book has been translated into so many different languages, and that people are actually accessing it, and they're accessing your very inspirational journey all over the world. And that, of course, is also the power of podcasting, right?
Yeah. 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 We live, I would coin the age that we live in as the age of the messenger.
Yeah.
And there are many messengers out there, and everyone has a message within them. Every one of us does. Everyone has a story to tell. As a writer, and as you write, you get clarity in that message, and you get clarity through writing. I don't write just for other people to read what I'm writing. I write to get clarity myself.
Yeah.
And I write for me, and the stuff that really works for me tends to work for others that
Yeah.
resonate with me.
Yeah. So you're in the Hollywood Hills, aren't you, Ryan? That's
Yes.
where you live, right? So, of course, everybody gets excited about that, don't they? Because, Hollywood and the home of media and so on. Have you ever been tempted to, or perhaps approached to turn your book into a movie, maybe?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
There's been a number of different companies that have made offers. I've been selective in that, because if you get the wrong person playing you, it's not very flattering, right? So if they say, "Hey, Ryan, Brad Pitt wants to play you," then I'll take an interest in it. But if Danny DeVito is going to play me, or something like that, I might object to it.
Do you what about Bradley Cooper? Would you
Yeah,
go
I'd take Bradley Cooper or
Okay.
Will. I'd even take Will Smith. Any. But no, but I do know that at some point in time, my books will turn into movies, and I'm really focused on now is, I started a movement 3 years ago, and a lot of people don't know this. I started it to test the content for my latest book.
Uh-huh.
So I've been writing now for seriously in this new book for 5 years.
Mm.
And I then said, okay, I want to start testing the content. And I just started hosting meetings in my house to test the content, and taking people on hikes. And then I did a Zoom, a mastermind, where I brought people together, and every Tuesday I would test content, and I would see what resonated and see what stuck. And so now I built this content library as a result of
Oh.
realizing, taking the approach to writing the book and testing it on the audience as I was writing it in real time, is
Oh.
what was the seeds of AlterCall.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So are you allowed to share any particular secrets, or is it going to be sort of behind the curtain reveal at some point?
I could share what I could share. The work, it's a labor of love. I want to write books that are around for my grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren. Like, I want to write books that are around for a long period of time. I don't write diet books or 5 steps to X or Y. I write books that have a long shelf life.
Yeah.
And so this particular labor of love has taken me many years to write. And I've released workbooks and principles and different elements of the content that will eventually be integrated in the final work.
Mhm.
And I've then tested that content, see what's resonated, see what's really landed and stuck with people. And then the final product will have the highest resonance, as a result of testing it, on hundreds of thousands of people now.
Wow, it sounds absolutely amazing. Well, I hope that I'm going to be one of the first people to read it.
Yes,
So,
I love that.
yeah, that would be great. Ryan, you're also quite active as a philanthropist, and love to hear a little bit more about that. What sort of charitable work do you do? What are the causes that are closest to your own heart?
Every month, I evaluate myself and ask myself, did I tithe enough this month?
Mhm.
And by tithing, I mean the financial support that I give to organizations as well as my time. And I'm always seeking to balance that with the other elements of my life, whether it be, the role that I have as a father, the role that I have as a CEO, and the role that I have as, a person giving, my money away and my time away. And so I'm always looking to take on new projects. But the projects that I'm most passionate about right now is we just had a very successful initiative working with a group called National Angels, which supports children in foster care. And I'm on the board there, and I've supported them in a few in some significant endeavors. I also have done. We recently did an AlterCall, a campaign to help feed the homeless, and I've been involved in meal-related programs for people that are, insecure with regard to their nutrition and hunger and so forth. And then anything to do with at youth risk, or
Mm.
at youth at risk, I should say,
Yes.
like I was. So
Yes.
I do a lot of work in those categories, but generally foster children, at risk youth, and people that are dealing with food insecurity.
Yeah, I mean, food insecurity, that's just, it's terrible to think in such a wealthy society, really, that people are still going hungry, but it happens, of course, doesn't it, all the time?
Yeah, yeah. I remember being very hungry as a kid,
Yeah,
and so it's part all of the giving back that I do. I tend to have a deep connection to it as a result of my experience. So but I've been involved in a lot of different causes as well. I give back actively to autistic related causes because, my son early on dealt with autism, and
yeah.
by the grace of God and a lot of healing work, he's no longer suffering from it. But he's the exception rather than the rule, and that he's gone beyond it. But many families are dealing with autism, and so I love to give to causes that support autism research or helping families that are suffering as a result of autism.
Oh, yeah, that is so amazing, and how wonderful, to have somebody like you on their side, really, because it's, those are fantastic, causes. So, Ryan, what's on the cards for you right now? What is the biggest focus for you, say, for the rest of this year? We're in the sort of early stages of 2023. So where would you like to be at the end of this year?
Well, we're building a retreat center in northern
Oh.
Arizona,
Oh.
and that's a fun project where I'm working on a pavilion that is 70 feet in length. I know you guys don't use feet in the UK, but it's a pretty big facility that'll house a good 50 to 60 people, and also a number of living corridors on it. It's an off the grid in the middle of nowhere place.
Oh.
So that's a fun project that I'm working on. I'm also innovating with some leading scientists on an AI coaching app that is integrating emotion recognition and emotional responses to conversational
Oh,
AI in the
really?
coaching space.
That sounds absolutely fascinating. So,
Yeah.
very I mean, obviously, AI is a really interesting topic anyway, and it's advancing so rapidly. But, that means that you will if you're coaching somebody, you'll be able to read and respond to their emotions. Is that right?
Yes. The objective, I started this project, and my first initiative was I'm going to become a coach, and I'm going to coach for thousands of hours to a variety of different people that I'm called to serve. And I documented that, and we did them via Zoom. And now we have the AI training on my coaching sessions and being able to basically replace me as a coach. So that way
Wow.
the AI can scale, and the AI is able to provide wisdom at the level that I can provide and even beyond, and that it's training on other proprietary data sets. And it's also refining its answers based on the feedback of the students. So
Oh.
it's a very exciting investment to be able to scale coaching in a way that it's never been scaled before.
I like literally that is absolutely jaw-dropping. I mean, my mind is blown at the thought of that. I
Yeah.
mean, will there come a day where we are going to see virtual therapists?
Yes, there are certain things that you need a quick answer on, and you can't get a hold of your coach. You don't want to pay, $2,000 an hour for me to answer a silly question, right? And so an AI can provide that level of information. You will still need to have a human connection with someone, but at what stage that connection occurs will change.
Ooh.
So every one of us will, like, I will have an AI assistant soon that is trained on all of the wisdom that I have obtained throughout my 25 years worth of entrepreneurial experience,
Wow.
and the vast experiences I've had in other categories. And that AI will be available to people around the clock in many different languages at a very affordable rate very soon here. And so it's going
Wow.
to disrupt and change, and it's going to make me more efficient, because now if a client has a quick question, they can get the answer from me without having to get on my calendar and having to tender a large sum of money, or to take me off of my my other projects, right? So it's going to be a fascinating evolution that we're going to help the industry go through.
Wow. I mean, I can really, hardly imagine how that could change things. That's incredibly powerful, and first of all, it means that people who have very valuable information because of the or valuable insights because of the life that they've lived and the success that they've had, and people obviously want to have the benefit of that person's advice or,
Yeah,
in the context of their own business or their own experience. So to be able to replicate yourself in a way is just, really pushing the frontiers of human experience in an incredible way. It's
yeah,
phenomenal. My mind is just, like, racing.
yeah. It's a fascinating topic. We have just a brilliant team of scientists and technologists and people on the project, and I'm just privileged to be able to be a part of this team. But it's fascinating, because my advice that I would give to, say, a 17-year-old is different than the advice I would give to a 45-year-old or a 65-year-old.
Yeah.
And so the AI has to have a whole lot of intelligence built into it in order to extract my wisdom. And also, I'm calibrating the individual as I'm giving this wisdom and advice, to see what's resonating, to see what's being missed. And so the AI has to also be able to calibrate the individual and the coach, and be able to use that data in a way of wisdom delivery that makes the wisdom actually resonate. So it's not an easy task. It's not just like, oh,
No.
let's create an AI and give it information, because I would give a different, if you ask the exact same question, a 17-year-old asks the exact same question, and a 65-year-old asks it, and I'm gonna answer it differently based on a number of different factors that we have to build into our AI in order to give the best wisdom that we possibly can.
Well, I mean, that would be a movie in itself as well.
Yeah, yeah,
You're definitely in the right place, I would say, with all of this incredible, mind-blowing stuff.
I've been working. We've been working on this project for over a year now, and with the rise of ChatGPT and all of the activity in the AI space going on, it's been beautiful for us to get that confirmation that we are indeed innovating on the front lines of
Oh,
AI.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get the job done. I'm the type of person that if it takes me 10 years to get something done, it'll take me 10 years. I'm not a short-term thinker. I'm much more of a long-term thinker. So we will have a product out this year. To answer your question about, where will I be at the end of this year? We'll have a retreat center open, and we'll
Mhm.
have an AI product that can scale globally by the end of the year. And I believe AlterCall will enter into a, multi-billion-dollar value creation scenario sometime, in this process that I've just described.
Wow. Well, that is just amazing. I can't thank you more, Ryan, for sharing all that incredible wisdom and those insights and your journey. It has been such a pleasure to have you here with me tonight. So thank you so much for joining me on the Smart Connector podcast. And before we go, I would love to know if people want to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can find me on all the major platforms. I'm most active personally on Instagram. My handle is at real Ryan Blair. And if you DM me, I'd certainly love to have a conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan. It's been such a pleasure and a privilege. And
Thank you.
yeah, look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.